right, we will wait a little bit more. Hey, if you can hear us, just text on the prompt so we know the Q&A thing. Hey, are you able to hear us? Anybody out there? Yeah, I'm not sure if we are able to stream properly. Can anybody hear me? Are you able to hear us? Okay, all right. Looks like we are good to go. Sorry, I wasn't getting any sound. Thank you so much for joining us. I am going to share my screen and get this show on the road. Apologies for all the technical snafus. All right, we will get this thing started. Let me just quickly move things away. All right, thank you everyone for joining. My name is Saurabh, and we are going to talk about Salesforce plus AI real-world use cases. We'll focus on Sales and Service Cloud, but a lot of what we're talking about applies equally well to Health Cloud, Financial Services Cloud, nonprofit, higher ed, whatever variant of Salesforce platform that you have. And I know lately that range has gotten significantly larger. So with that, we'll get into this. Please do keep adding your comments and your questions in the live stream here. I am looking at that as well, and we will answer them as we get around to it. All right, with that out of the way, a little bit about me. My name is Saurabh Gupta. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cloud Compliance. We are a Salesforce App Exchange ISV partner, and GPTfy is our product to enable AI. We are a product company, and we'll start with the classic disclaimer. Everything you're going to hear is not legal advice. It is also not the point of view of Salesforce. We are Salesforce partners. I used to work at Salesforce. So I'm deeply impressed and influenced by how they think about innovation, customer satisfaction, things like that. But this is 100% our point of view. We have been very fortunate to work with some very forward-thinking customers, engage with a lot of very smart partners, and a lot of professionals in my team who have given us the ability to understand and enrich our understanding of AI. So everything in this document and everywhere is for informational purposes. Again, not legal advice. You can consult your lawyers for that and make your decisions based on available features. With that out of the way, very quickly, we're going to talk about a little bit of the introduction, setting context for this, talk a few minutes about the sales and service challenges, and then jump into customers' life cycle that you can see in any industry, including yours, and how can AI play a role. We have a lot of demos because that is the focus. We want to make sure that you are able to get a sense of how this comes across, and we want to cut through all the noise and really get into the areas that are worth pursuing. With that, we'll do a little bit of resources and next steps and jump into Q&A. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm looking at the feed, and there are folks from Michigan, Oregon, Minnesota, United Kingdom, and elsewhere. Really appreciate having you. Let's jump into it. All right, let's talk a little bit about sales and service challenges. Here is what we heard repeatedly from a lot of customers. With everything that's going on today, we are seeing a significant shift that started somewhere around COVID and has only accelerated with inflation, with economic uncertainties and everything. Every organization today is trying to move from the left here, which is transactional interactions, into personalized interactions, right? We want to do more than a one-trick pony. We want to build deep relationships with customers. We want to go from products to subscriptions, right? We want to deepen that relationship of our brand and make sure that there is repeated buying. On the technology front, we want to move away from this flood of unstructured data that we have from messages, instant notifications, social media posts, video, webinars, events, PDFs, all over the place. There is so much unstructured data. And we are looking at how do we move from it into more actionable insights. The third part of this is data. Everybody talks about it, but we are drowning in data. There is the grunt work of sorting data, cleaning it, refining it, filtering it to be able to use it. And how do we take this and make the whole sorting of data automated, the analysis of it automated, and consume a clearer version of it? It's literally like you have seen how do you build a desalination plant to get drinkable water. Similarly, we have challenges with reporting. How do we move away from all these reports, whether they're in Salesforce, in outreach tools that you use, email marketing, all across the board, you've got all of this little tools and little reportings everywhere. And how do you really get into deal visibility? That's the challenge that we consistently heard from sales folks. Anybody who has Sales Cloud is running sales ops using Salesforce, which is an excellent platform. But these challenges are only increasing as we continue down, the way things are and the global unrest and everything else that's changing around us. Similarly, on the support side, if you run a Service Cloud instance, if you have a call center, if you do customer support, customer success, things like that, you have these challenges. You see a high cost and high turnover, and you really want to move away from it and automate a lot of high cost things and move it to prioritizing for high value. And by the way, this is really, I think, my last slide. And after that, we jump into the lifecycle and demos. So stick around. Just wanted to mention that, right? The second part of this is red accounts. The customer experience today is incredibly frustrating. How do you address that dissatisfaction and do address it proactively? How do you move away from this tone-deaf communication that has become very sort of corporate and machine-like? And how do you bring a more personalized and empathetic tone? How do you move from this hit or miss agent diagnosis into really automation around root cause analysis? It takes 6 emails to even figure out what is it that the customer actually wanted, what is the problem. Particularly if you have a complex product, you're high tech, you're manufacturing of advanced equipment, you sell aircrafts, right? If you have any of those kind of complex things, there is a significant challenge of just arriving at the root cause. So how do we address all that? So let's jump a little bit into your customer lifecycle and then into Salesforce AI, and then really look at some demos, real world examples of what you can do today with AI, how can you do it securely, all of that. All right, so here is a classic customer lifecycle. And regardless of the industry you are in, you may be financial services, insurance, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, banking, high tech, it really doesn't matter. You may be selling to public sector, private sector, US only, global, B2C, B2B. Regardless of how you do, there is a set of steps that most of us go through to go from quote to cash to go to basic revenue, right? You have some version of outreach. It may be events, it may be conferences, it may be emails, it may be distributing flyers to people on roads. You do outreach, and from there, you get them engaged. You may have a demo or a proposal. You may negotiate a deal for close. You may onboard them once they buy a product or service. You have a customer success and support to keep everything running smoothly for your customers. And then you're hoping that they would renew. You're hoping to do cross-sell, upsell, things like that. And the cycle repeats itself. And all through this cycle, your focus area constantly changes. You go from a focus on growing pipeline in the initial outreach to really optimize for conversion when they are looking at a demo, when you're doing the proposal. From there, you move into managing stakeholders, your internal stakeholders, a partner stakeholders, the end customer or prospect stakeholders. You do comparison analysis. How does service X versus service Y look? Your competitor is offering me something cheaper. So there's a whole lot of that kind of stuff that happens. And from there, hopefully, you sign a deal, you onboard them, provision access, deliver them your product, and you facilitate customer service. And as they continue using it, you improve services, you optimize renewals. So in this entire life cycle, as you think through this, what does AI do for you? When you look at Salesforce plus AI, here are some examples of use cases, and they're not all inclusive. We've just, in the interest of time, kept it very limited. And we will show you demos of literally all of these stages and what you can do with AI. So the first one is the most heard example, right? You can do a personalized email draft, click a button, voila, AI generates an email draft for you, right? You can also do white space analysis, something that we are working with a bunch of customers on, where what you want to do is you want to look at what you sell, you want to look at what a customer is trying to do. So it may be based on their financial documents, right? Their financial reports, 10K, and other documents like that. It may be their CEO stated objective, things like that. And you want to figure out what else can you sell? How can you make a proposal that aligns with their aspirations and you can align in that direction? The second part of this is optimizing for conversion, right? As you're going through these cycles, if you are an AE, if you run sales op, if you are a sales leader, you spend a lot of time in pipeline calls, right? You're doing pipeline reviews, you're looking at all of this, and your folks are going to do an opportunity summary. That's an example of how would you go about, cutting out grunt work that your sales guys are doing today. They're literally sitting somewhere, writing a report, putting it in PowerPoint so that they can go through a pipeline analysis. And how can AI help you summarize those opportunities? How can you get a sense of the sentiment on every email, every messaging back and forth that's happening? That's something AI is actually fairly good at, and it can help you understand this at scale. So if I'm an RVP of sales and I have 50 reps working for me, and each of them is working a bunch of opportunities, that's a ton of data for me to look at. So summarization and sentiment analysis can help me understand, where do I fly in? Which opportunity do I go and interject in? Which rep needs more coaching? Which rep needs specific support from a solution engineer or some other subject matter expert in your industry, in your domain, right? And from there, as you look at negotiating and managing stakeholder expectations, you're going to do quotes, you're going to do proposals, you're talking to your sales ops, your finance people, the customer wants special terms, can we do that? The customer is going, well, you said X, your customer said Y, your competitor gave me a Y quote. I want a comparison, tell me how you're better. And a lot of time gets spent on it. AI can actually look at two documents and give you a comparison. That's a demo that I'm very interested in showing, and we will show shortly. Similarly, you can do account 360. And the idea of account 360 here is that you're looking at not only opportunities and cases associated with an account, but you're also looking at what's not there. What is the sentiment on those opportunities and cases? What are the objections that a customer may have indicated in emails? What may be a possible next step? And every one of these things, I should caveat because I'm looking at a comment which was saying something about you can find sentiment in words, but not in tone. Every one of these things, you have to think of these with human in the loop. And what that means is AI is a good supporting technology. I think of AI as microwave oven. I'm just not going to throw something in there and let it burn, right? I'm going to watch, I want to make sure that I'm using it appropriately. So AI can significantly reduce the grunt work across all of them. And what you then want to do is you want to leverage what it did with human intelligence and make sure it is aligning. So it significantly reduces the effort, the manual grunt work, but it doesn't eliminate, human logic, human emotion, human sentiment, human intelligence. That's kind of the way to think about it as we continue on. So after that segue, back to this. So as you think about onboarding and facilitating customer success, you're looking at things like case summarization. Currently, if you run a call center, if you have a support, there is a lot of cost in just kind of handing over cases. If you are, follow the Sun model, or if I just had a conversation with a customer, I'm going to sit down and summarize my notes, right? There's a lot of that kind of stuff that's happening. If it's a chat transcript, if you're recording these calls and then getting a transcript of it, that's a lot of content. Someone has to then summarize it, and AI is brilliant at doing things like these. It can dramatically reduce the cost, and we have some ROI studies of how effective it can be, and we'll share links of that in resources. Similarly, when I'm onboarding, I want to have a customer 360. I spent a lot of time at Salesforce. I was there for 7 years. in customer success. And one of the key things is, once a sale is made, and if I'm going to come in, I want to know what was promised to the customer, because sometimes there's a lot that's promised. I also want to have a better context of, customers' history with the products, their all of that background. And a customer 360 or an account 360 is a great way to help your your CSMs and your success team. And after that, as they're using products, you may have a root cause analysis, you may have a sentiment journey. These are really interesting areas. We'll dive a bit deeper into them. But the whole idea of root cause analysis is, if you deal with complex products and a customer goes back and forth, hey, I tried this. Okay, reboot the router. Good. Update the drivers. Do this, do that. And eventually you may find the problem. Your engineering wants to have a summary of what actually went wrong. And root cause analysis lets you do that and surface things up so that your product management can prioritize what to fix, what to add in next release, things like that. It is valuable for other areas also, which are typically support intensive. If you are health insurance, if you're just insurance in general, very, very intensive in terms of support, claims, things like that. Great way to leverage root cause analysis. Along the same lines, sentiment journey is invaluable. Typically, most organizations today would, let's say you do a claim process in your insurance, right? Or you do loan processing, you're a mortgage company, you're real estate, you're selling homes. Somebody logged a case or a service request, they went through the motions. You then send them a survey and they maybe ding it. Well, that's too late, right? Like, I stay in a particular brand of hotel a lot, and I read the reviews, and there are people who would be fuming like they had such a bad experience at a certain hotel. And the whole challenge with all of that is, it's too late at that point. You can just apologize. What sentiment journey lets you do is, if you have a back and forth with the customer, every interaction, in case comments or emails or chat transcript or what have you, you can get a sentiment on each of them. So if it's starting to go negative, you can interject. And we will show you how that works and how you can hook that to flows and really dramatically accelerate customer satisfaction. And finally, it brings us to renewals. One of those areas that has been an increasing focus across the board. Every company wants to increase the share of renewals in their overall annual revenue. Across the board, I talk with customers, in Bay Area tech companies, East Coast financials, a lot of European customers in very, very different industries. And renewal and customer satisfaction has become more important than ever, as there is more and more competition. There is increased scrutiny of spending and things like that. So again, customer 360, we talked about, sentiment journey, we talked about. One of the things that this doesn't mention, but is useful to know, is with products like GPTfy, which is what we make, you can leverage third-party AI. And not only can you leverage AI, you can also process data that is not natively in Salesforce. You can bring it through Lightning Connect, which is a rather inexpensive piece of technology. You can bring it through Lightning Connect into Salesforce and you can process it. And so you can bring in telematics, you can bring in product usage data. If you're an automobile company, you can bring that data. If you sell digital content, subscription content, things like that, you can bring in that data so that for your renewal, you can apply AI. And when you're talking to your customer, you can talk about usage, you can talk about how what you offer only helps them improve revenues, reduce risks, things like that. All of this is great. We all want to do this all the time, but there are serious operational concerns right now with AI, right? How do you drive ROI with AI? It seems incredibly expensive. We don't know if there's enough use cases. How do you bring user adoption? How do you improve security? How do you stay compliant? These are things that we've spent a lot of time on, and maybe we'll do a future webinar on. Today, we are going to be demo heavy and get into some of the things that you see above here, but know that we've thought a lot about that. So what I'll do next is give you a 1-minute overview of what GPTfy is, and then we will dive right into demos. And I apologize if I'm speaking too fast. I have a lot of content to cover, and I want to make sure I bring it to you. All right. So GPTfy is an app exchange app. And basically, the idea is that it lets you bring your own AI. So if you are a Salesforce customer and you want to use OpenAI on Azure, Vertex from Google, Bedrock from Amazon Web Services, or anybody else, you pick your favorite vendor, you can bring your AI. Your folks can lock it down from a security standpoint, and you can utilize GPTfy with Salesforce. It's a native Salesforce app. So what you see here, this grunt work, you can automate this with AI, and both of these are running inside your Salesforce. So you have Salesforce native, security and trust layer. We mask your data, sensitive data in Salesforce and keep it there. Don't send it to AI. All the prompt management, all the administration, everything is managed through GPTfy app. And that way you can very, very quickly get to bringing AI, leveraging it. We've done POCs that we can get you up and running in hours with this thing. And you can have a free POC in like a week or two and really highlight the value that it brings to you. Okay, with that out of the way, let's jump into demos. We'll talk a little bit about customer lifecycle and Salesforce plus AI, and we will show you a few demos. I'm going to take a tiny break and grab a sip of water. Meanwhile, please keep putting your comments here. I'm glancing at them every now and then. Thank you, Pearl, for that feedback. All right, I will switch to next slide, grab a drink, a gulp of water, and then continue on. All right, thank you so much. I'm back. So let's talk about outreach and grow pipeline and personalized email draft. Probably the most standard use case we hear all the time. Let's see it in action. So I'm here on an opportunity in Salesforce org, and it's literally just a basic opportunity. And you're just saying, hey, there is a customer, they want to do something. I have some information about the customer. Not a whole lot, but some basic information. Very typical of a lead. You just had a passing conversation somewhere and you just created an opportunity, right? And you want to send them an email with some context. So what you see here, this tiny little thing is GPTfy. There is a ton of things that happen in the background of how prompts get managed, how security is done, and things like that. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and pick a particular prompt. And what we will do is we will generate an email draft. One of the things that you want to be aware of here is you control what your sales folks can do, right? So every prompt that you see here, a Salesforce admin can determine if this is something that they should make accessible to salespeople, which gives you the opportunity to try it, test it, make sure that it's configured correctly from a security standpoint. All the concerns around it, you can make sure that they're addressed before you do this. All right, so I'm just going to select this and I'm going to hit run GPTfy. And what it does now is it pulls all the Salesforce data, it masks out sensitive information, pushes it to OpenAI in this case, and it brings you back this email that you're looking at, this email draft here. All right. And basically what I can do is I can take this email draft and I can leverage it for sending an email, right? I can click on this button and it will just pop open the Salesforce's email window and use it and just populate it. If I don't do that, I can just copy it in my clipboard and I can use Outlook, I can use Gmail, whatever client you use, right? So I just copied that. I can actually then just go to my emails, which if I can find here somewhere, and I can just go to my email here and I can just copy paste it here, right? So here is what it generated. I have that, I can put it wherever, I can do whatever I want with it. And this is the interesting part about this, that by doing things like this, and there's a lot of work we are doing in this space to make it more personalized to the tone of the sender and your corporate guidelines around what you can say, things like that. So that is the direction that this is headed in. All right, I'm looking at a question. Does AI have access to metadata? Will it be able to address prompts about customization? Yes, and I'm going to get into some of these Q&A in a bit, but please keep them coming. Thank you, Jake. All right, so this is an example of an email draft. If I go back here, the things that we were talking about in outreach, this is what we are doing. You are giving someone the ability to generate a draft, and then I can make changes to it. I'm not going to send it as is back to the human in the loop because it doesn't sound like me, doesn't talk like me. Today, it's somewhat limited. But what you are doing is you have reduced the amount of time I would have spent trying to put this thing together myself, right? Where it's different from email templates is that if there was a lot of content for this opportunity, AI would have taken that in consideration. If this was a follow-up email and there were 15 emails that were exchanged before this, AI can actually scan through this and come up with a more personalized version of that draft. So this is the beauty of doing something like this. All right. The second part of this story is I did this. This is great. They are interested. This opportunity is moving on. And I have to sit through pipeline review. This is something that people in sales love. I'm kidding, right? And I want to have a summary because my boss is going to be like, hey, what's happening to that University of Michigan health proposal that we were working on? So we're trying to sell them some health insurance. And, I want to give a summary. Again, same idea here. I'm going to go here. I'm just going to hit opportunity summary and I can hit this. Same thing. We're going to extract all this information. See, all of this stuff that is here, it got extracted, got masked, and you have a summary here, right? It's talking about they're looking for a telemedicine offering. Here's what we provide. This is the stage this is in, and it needs a compelling value proposition. Again, the more content we provided, this only has like 4 or 5 emails. The more content we provided, the more objections it has. AI will be able to surface a lot of them. And that is the beauty of this. If you're thinking about AI, one of the really important things to think about is how much of this sort of unstructured data you have. The more you have, the more compelling this outcome becomes. So if you use Einstein activity capture, if you are logging emails, if you're bringing in chat transcript, anything that you're bringing here, that will inform the output even more because we can continue to send this information and you can really leverage it. And that's the beauty of what is happening. So I'm going to show you a little bit of under the hood because that was one of the questions I think Jake or someone asked. And someone's also asking about how we anonymize it. So this is kind of what has happened in the background, right? This is what we saw. This is under the hood. What happened was we sent all this information, right? And we pulled out information that we had configured. So in the masking, it said, hey, we think the account name is PII, right? So we replaced that with person full, for example. Oops. And that's the idea that across the board, we are essentially doing that. And then we send it to AI. AI sends us data back. And, we have produced this summary that we were showing earlier, right? And this is the prompt that was sent. So what you're looking at here is an extremely comprehensive audit of what actually happened. And until the time your security people, compliance folks, till the time they're not satisfied, you can try this out, test it out, make sure, against mass data, against fake data, you can make sure that all of this is properly getting addressed before you jump into deploying it in production, correct? So this is what happened. Let me take you a little bit also under the hood at the same time here. So this is the prompt that we were using, right? We just said, hey, generate a summary. And you can see it's very simple, plain English prompt. And you can write these very, very easily. One of the things is what information are we sending? So someone had asked that question around metadata. This is the information we are sending. I have an opportunity line item. For each of these, I can specify what fields I'm sending, right? These are the fields I'm sending. And I can also specify what fields do I want to mask. In this case, I'm specifying for name to be scanned for PII. So if the name of the account, in this particular case, it was University of Michigan, I think U of M. So we will mask that with person full one or person one, whatever. And we will mask that not only on this field, but on all unstructured fields. There is long text description, whatever. And we've added a lot more features into it in our next release that comes out in another week. So you can also scan for regular expressions. You can scan for block lists. So license numbers, SSNs, phone numbers, account numbers, policy numbers, whatever you have. And if you also have particular block lists that you want to do. So great way to do that and very, very quickly bring yourself, get your company up to speed with AI. And all of this is going against a dedicated instance. In this particular example, it's going against a dedicated instance of OpenAI running on Azure. You can bring your own AI model from whatever you want. So that's on this front. Let's take another example as your opportunity moves forward, right? You are now in this stage where you're going, I'm in the negotiation case, and the customer is going, great. I have a quote from a competitor, or I'm looking at your two products and I don't really understand the differences. And this is one of the really powerful features where you can do file comparison. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select 2 files. I have 2 files here for products, and they could be quotes, my quote versus a competitor's, right? Or some of the things that a customer may have asked. It could also be, the RFP or terms, our MSA versus what they're asking. You can like apply for any kind of file. I'm going to apply for these two files. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to run through this. Now, this is going to take these files, send it to AI, extract the data from these two PDFs. I could have done it with PDF and PowerPoints and Excel and Microsoft Word and images. So there is a lot of value in bringing this. And this takes a while, but basically it's going to take that, scan through it, bring all the information back, let AI compare it and give you this result. So now you can see that AI is able to parse through this document and come up with this. I'm going to show you the document just so that you get a sense of how much information is this, right? This is the document and it's got some information here, right? This is the second document and it's got a bunch of information here. Now, if for this example, we actually took less information, but you can send a ton of information. Typically, you can send 15, 20 pages, 40 pages, whatever you have, and essentially scan them and come back with this. What you're seeing here is like literally very, very quickly, you are able to come back with this. And again, I can copy this, send it in an email, customize it a little bit and say, hey, you asked me this question, here is kind of the pros and cons. I can also write prompts where I can get a side-by-side comparison if that is what I was shooting for. So very, very interesting and compelling use cases of how you can apply this. All right. So you're going through this deal, stuff is going well, they sign up, now is the time to onboard them, right? You've sold your product, service offering, and you go, okay, that's awesome. We love it, but now I'm the customer success guy, I'm the support guy, and I'm like, wait, what did sales sell them? I don't know. What is going on with them? What has transpired so far? That is an example where we can use Account 360. The other part of this is you're a senior manager. You're like, hey, I want to know what's going on, all the opportunities for this account, A1 Techno Services, right? They're a great customer of ours. We're trying to sell them some new stuff and provisioning some other stuff. Want to be sure everything's going good before I make a call or before I go meet them for a dinner, right? And no sales or support person wants to be caught off guard on this. You don't want to call a customer and try to have a great positive conversation and upsell or cross-sell, and they are fuming about how bad their experience is with cases. Because if you knew that, you can have a more empathetic tone. That is what you're seeing here, right? I have this Account 360, and you can see there is a case subject, a summary, a bunch of things, an opportunity name. And essentially what you're seeing is, here is the summary for this case, and the sentiment is negative, right? So if I'm going to go talk to this customer, I can actually say, hey, I understand that you're having some trouble with the router, and I know the guy who's working on it, and we have escalated it internally. So, I definitely will take care of that. But let's talk about these two opportunities, right? So your ability to empathize with the challenges they're having and then look into the opportunity is so much better with AI. They're summarizing all of this. The other part that's interesting here is the summary, the sentiment, this summary here, the objection raised, the next best option. This is not data that you have today in your Salesforce. Nobody has this data today in Salesforce. Well, mostly nobody, unless you're manually entering it, right? This is where the power of AI comes in. You have eliminated so much of grunt work by automating all of this that it becomes dramatically easier for your management to see what's happening, right? They are able to get a sense of, is this working? Is this not working? What are the kind of opportunities that are going good? What are not going well? Are there concerns that I can go address, right? John is expressing concerns about the size of the project. Maybe you want someone from your customer success, from your implementation team, who can come in and talk about your other large customers where you've done large implementations. So a lot of that kind of stuff, AI is bringing to the forefront. Will your reps bring it? Absolutely, but it takes time, right? You got to sit through meetings after meetings. And the larger you are as an organization, the bigger is this grunt work, the bigger is this effort of looking at these things. So you can now just click a button and actually get all of this information in all of its richness. So I think I spent a fair bit of time on it. I'm going to jump to the next case, and we can come back and look at this later. I'm looking at a bunch of questions. Please keep them coming. I will definitely answer them as I go along or at the end of this. All right. So the next one is another favorite one of mine. I spent a lot of time in production support early in my career. And for any of you who has done those kind of roles, production support, customer success, hats off to you. I mean, those roles are not easy. and they're only continuing to get harder, right? Customers today have a much higher expectation. All of us have much higher expectations. We are looking at these incredible brands we are customers of. You look at the Apples, the Starbucks, the Salesforces, the Marriotts of the world, and you're going, wow, that is the kind of experience everybody in the world wants to deliver. And your mileage may vary with some of the brands I mentioned, but bottom line is our expectation as customers is significantly higher. And the more complex the product you sell, the harder it is to support it and to address root causes. So if you have software crashes, if you are in high tech, if you sell automobiles, if you sell aeroplanes, if you sell to defense, if you have hard, complex products where a lot of the underlying issues to find takes a while, if your support has highly priced engineers, this is a problem, right? How do you get to root cause? It may take a very long thread of diagnosis before you actually arrive at a root cause analysis. In this case, there is like a bunch of emails that are going, oh, I updated this, I did that, I applied drivers, I reset, I stood on one foot and danced. All of that I've done. But ultimately, you want to understand what is the root cause. And you can use this AI to do this. Same idea, I'm pulling case data, I'm pulling case comments. We can pull from 3 levels, right? Parent, child, grandchild. We can pull from lookup relationships. We can pull from custom objects, managed package objects. So if you use third-party packages, we can pull data from there. We can pull from external objects. So if you have an OData connection and you're bringing in data from, SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, Snowflake, whatever OData-based technology you have, you can bring a lot of information. And we can pull it using external objects in Salesforce, send it to AI and run things like that and give you back stuff like that. And the beauty of this is because you have it here, you're now able to submit it to your product, your engineering can review, and they can prioritize defects and things like that. So all of this is back into this, right? We are here, we've gone through this onboarding, we did some customer success and support. I want to show you one more really interesting use case, and which is around sentiment journey, right? As you're going through this interaction with customer and maybe you're up for renewal, you want to know what transpired with the customer. And this is valuable for 2 specific reasons. One, certain type of reps are extremely good with certain type of customers. I may have prior experience in an industry, right? Let's say I work for Salesforce, for example, and I have experience in pharma. And every time I get a case from a pharma customer, I am extremely good at solving it. That's first part. The second part of this is personality types, regions, cultures, size of the customer. I'm great at solving problems for mid-sized customers or enterprise customers and things like that. And what you're doing here is when you're looking at a case and all the interactions on it, you can run AI and you can get back a sentiment on every interaction. So on every case comment, on every email, on every chat transcript, everything you're looking at, you can get a sense of the interactions that have happened. And AI can basically look at all of this and it can bring back all of the sentiments across for that journey. So what that means is when you're looking at customer support, when you're looking at renewals, you're able to look at those sentiments and see how things have changed over time, right? You can do this for case comments, for example, as we were looking at here. You can do this for opportunities. You can do this for any object, right? And this is so valuable because as you start looking at this, you start understanding why is somebody unhappy, and if they are unhappy, how can I interject? So this brings me to another thing which I find really problematic when you think about support and also about sales. Like if I click a button and this shows up here, that's great, but as a manager, I am not going to go in my call center, which is addressing 2,000 cases a day, and click a button 2,000 times and look at this, right? Just doesn't work that way. How do I leverage the power of things like flows, right? Can I trigger a flow if the sentiment was negative, for example? So let's take a look at that. So I'm here on this case, all right? And this case has a bunch of things going on. There's some root cause analysis. There is some comments here that you can see. Now, what I want to do is I want to get a sentiment and a summary of this case, right? And once the sentiment and summary comes, I want to update these fields here, the sentiment field and the summary field, correct? And if I can update a field here, I can fire a flow from that. I can do escalation routes, I can do case routing, I can write a trigger, do whatever I please. That is the power of Salesforce I so absolutely love, is how do you hook into things from seemingly different worlds and really bring transformation to your organization. So I'm going to run this, and if the demo gods are with me, we should see the sentiment and summary getting populated. All right. And while it's going on, I'm going to look at some of the questions here. All right. Looks like there's a bunch of them. All right. So as you can see here, we got this sentiment. It is negative. We have a summary that's being populated. And because this is a field on a record, guess what? You can fire a flow. If I can fire a flow, I can let the manager of this rep know. We can escalate it. We can have all kind of rules. I mean, I don't have to tell anybody on this call about the power of flow, right? Like, you all of a sudden have every possible hook to do whatever the heck you please with the information that AI just gave you. And I can do that at scale. Some of the things that we have built allow you, you can run this as a scheduling job, and it'll run every 30 minutes, for example. So all the cases that have been updated in the last 30 minutes, you can keep running this thing. And anytime a sentiment starts to track negative, you can fire an email. You can escalate a case. Anytime a sentiment starts to track negative opportunity, you can let that person know, you can let their bosses know, and they can be proactive. One of the most fundamental areas, which I think gets missed in this conversation around AI, is the degree of proactiveness it's going to bring to the organizations. Sure, it'll let me kill grunt work. Sure, it'll let me reduce costs. Sure, it'll improve my sales. But all this time, this whole conversation of digital transformation and bringing agility and becoming more customer-centric, this is the kind of hook that lets you be there. This is the kind of technology that will transform how we are doing it. Now, I agree there is a ton of concerns around security, compliance, hallucination, bias, toxicity. My data is not ready, all of that. We hear them all the time. We have addressed a ton of them and would love to show you more on that. There are some detailed videos on that. And if you comment in here, and if you are interested in us doing a follow-up webinar where we talk purely about security, privacy, compliance, ethics, all of that stuff, happy to do that. But that is really the gist of some of these things that we are talking about. I'm going to take a look at the questions, grab some water, but please ask me if there are other questions in the meantime right here. Give me a sec. All right. Oh my gosh, lots of questions. Hey, Vernon. Good to see him here. Okay. Okay, Navjoban Josen asked, can we see behind the scene data, what was sent to LLM, what was masked from the document as well? Yeah. So Navjoban, on the typical prompts, yes, you can see that data. I can go here and you can see that information, right? What was masked, what was sent, all of that, right? All of this was masked. It was replaced. You can see my email was replaced with this one, and so on and so forth, right? Phone numbers were replaced. Whatever happened, you can see here. We built this specifically because we work a ton with regulated sector customers, and we have for the last 4 years. So, like, literally, when we started building all of this in GPTfy, very early in 23, the first thing we built was the security layer. So we do a lot of that stuff. If your comment is in particular around the document processing example that I was showing, in that case, we are just sending documents, but they are going to your specific AI, right? So in this case, let me go back here for a sec to answer your question better. In this case, sorry. In this case here, this is, a lot of this is running in an AI of your choice. So let's say you use Azure, Microsoft Azure, and you decide to use OpenAI on Microsoft Azure, or you use Google Cloud and you put Vertex AI on that, or you have AWS and you're using Bedrock. So in case of documents, we are sending documents and a lot of parsing is happening here. So I don't have the detailed parsing data. I'm just sending them documents and getting back responses. But for everything else, we are withholding this back into Salesforce. So that's on that particular question. Let me see. What else do I have? Okay. Comments. All right. Somebody asked a question on masking. Do you send actual document to OpenAI or just mask content from the document? So yeah, we send document to, in our case, it was Azure. So Azure has a separate document processing service that we send it to. And then what's going to OpenAI is still after the fact. It's happening after that. Let me see what other questions. Is this field masking uniquely offered in GPTfy? Yes. I mean, I don't know of other products. I can tell you for a fact that that's something we have built natively, and we built a lot of that kind of functionality, and we are constantly adding more to it. All right. Are there other questions? Does GPTfy anonymize data behind the scene? How do we convince client we are not risking data leak? Ashutosh asked. Yeah, Ashutosh. So it's really just what I was showing here on any of this. It is, where was that? It is really just this, right? Like the proof is in the pudding. Like you can literally see this, and the customer, my recommendation, and this is what we do with all the customers, we do data masking a lot as a product company. So my recommendation is run it on a sandbox that has data already masked or against fake data, and you can see what's happening, what's going, what is it, containing, what else is it, not holding back. And if you feel like there is something that we missed, then you can just go and configure that. So let's say if I miss something here, I can just go to this mapping, and I can just go and tweak it there, right? Just as soon as this comes up, what I'm going to do is I can go to case comments, or to case. In this case, let's do case. I'm going to do field mapping, and I can go, well, I think close date is confidential for me, right? This is PII. Maybe it was date of birth or something, and I can just mask it against one of these. And like I mentioned, we are adding a ton of support for regular expressions and all. And I'll show you that in a minute. If we get, a moment, I can go into my early release environment and show some of that. So hopefully that answers that question. And Ashutosh, if you have more, please do comment. I'm going to take a look. What else am I looking at? Does AI have access to metadata in Salesforce? Will it be able to address prompt? Yes, Jake. So you have 100% access to the prompts, if I'm understanding the question well. So you can create your own prompts, as many as you like. And the anatomy of a prompt is quite simple. It's a prompt against an object. It's associated with an extraction mapping. Like this is a custom prompt. It allows users to type in whatever they want in the UI. Or you can have a different kind of prompt. You can do a summarization. So here's the prompt command. And we also support multiple components. And again, the beauty of this is you can have multiple languages. You could say, hey, I want it in German, for example, right? You can do it. You can pick a tone. You can pick a format. There is a lot more than what meets the eye. Most of the times we show it to the customers, we are like, yeah, that's it. Your end user doesn't have to bother with anything. They will literally just see what's on the screen here. By the way, I forgot to mention this line is red because the sentiment here was negative. All right. So with that, let me quickly dive into some of these things that I missed out on, which is around resources. And after that, I can answer any additional questions that I may have missed. There are some new comments. I will take a look. All right. So let's talk a little bit about our resources. You can find a ton of information on GPTfy.ai, which is our website. We've also created a group. We were participants in Enterprise Dreaming. So there is a group on LinkedIn called Enterprise Dreaming, and we post all of this content there. This recording will be there as well if you'd like to revisit it. Please just go and join that group. It's the easiest way to get everything in one place, and we will continue to add as things move along. Similarly, this customer lifecycle diagram that I was showing, we have a version of it with a lot of additional information. So all of the use cases that you are looking at here, there are some demo videos for these. It's a really great document that you can go and check out there. The next thing on is, we have use cases for Sales Cloud. You can get those. We have use cases for Service Cloud. We have use cases for Financial Services Cloud if you are into FSC. And you can also get our data sheet and a lot of other information. I would encourage you to check us out on our website, on that LinkedIn group, join there, because we've continued to post, content there. You don't have to buy anything from us, but it's a great way to get educated on what's happening in the AI space and how you can really stay abreast of things. If you decide that you would like to do a demo or just have a conversation with us, please do reach out to us. You can go to our website and book a demo. I think my colleagues would probably paste a link to this as well. So you can certainly take a demo. We can get into a deeper dive on any area that you like. We do free proof of concept. So if you're interested, happy to do a POC so that you can try it in your environment, can make sure that it's working, and then you can be 100% certain it's for you. All right. So that's really all I have. I'm going to answer any more questions, but thank you so much for joining. I'm very excited with all the questions and the support we got. All right, let me go look at questions. Yes, Pearl, you can do that. A free plan. And all right. All right. I'm looking for this. I would be interested. Ashutosh asked if we can leverage this for use cases for CPQ. Absolutely, Ashutosh. Basically everything we are doing is running on metadata. So we can show you, metadata anywhere, and you can do a ton of stuff with CPQ or whatever. I'm also going to show you guys a little bit of what's coming in our brand new release in a minute if you want to hang around, and there's additional features that may be useful here. All right, Vernon, thank you so much for joining. Vernon Keenan is in the house here, and he's a brilliant thinker that I follow quite a bit. All right, are there other questions? Yeah, I think Shubhan, I answered your question. All right. If there are other questions, please do add here. Would love to answer them. I'm looking at them on my phone here. Sorry, just the way streaming works. In the meantime, I'm going to show you a little bit of what we do, what are we doing in our next release. So let me go there. One of the things that we found is that customers want to really understand the breadth of everything that's happening in the AI space. So this is our new version. We are adding a lot of capabilities around some of these areas, right? So customers want to have a sense of what's the business value of doing AI. That's the number one question everybody asks, particularly around use cases, right? So we track all of this. You can, enable how many prompts you want to deploy, how quickly you want to deploy all of that information. And it is really, really easy. You just go here, you go this. We have a lot of prompts that we prepackage. You can essentially just pick a prompt that you like, hit next. You can look at the mapping, tweak it if you like. You can specify a particular profile. And essentially, that's really it. I can pick a profile. I can pick it for a specific record type, and I'm done. So that is how quickly we are able to do something like this. I'm going to look at some questions that I have. I realize that there is a bit of latency in the streaming. So give me a minute. So one of the questions I'm looking at from Ankush is around how does AI, generative AI, differ from RPA tools? So Ankush, the one thing that I found is that with generative AI, I can send it a lot of unstructured data and it can make sense of it. When I think of RPA, I think of really more automation and less analysis, right? What I'm doing is I want to craft an email based on the past 20 emails that have already gone. That is the beauty of generative AI, particularly with the increased token size. What that means is I'm able to send a particular amount of data today. There is an upper limit to that, and that limit has steadily been increasing. So some AI offerings today, like Cloud from Anthropic, you can send up to 100K token size, which means you can send a 75-page book in it, 75,000 words you can send to AI and have it summarize it, have it generate emails based on all of that data. So one of the use case, which is very interesting that we are working on for a customer, is that they'd like us to crunch through financial data, financial report data for their customers, and come back with, summarizations around what can we sell them. So you can make an assumption like I am a digital transformation consulting company and I want to sell my services to, some bank, right? And this bank just came out with their 10K, and in that, or in their quarterly financial statement to SEC, they just said, hey, we are looking at transforming the digital experience for our customers. We are going to come up with some mobile apps. We're going to come up with something else. We are going to integrate with WhatsApp. I'm making this up, right? So now that is buried in a 60-page document. Nobody's going to read that. And that's where AI is so incredibly powerful. You can throw this to AI You can tell it this is what we do. AI can scan through the document, pull things that may be relevant, and that kind of white space analysis you can then put in your email. You can create, slide decks and send it. You can make a proposal. So it warms up a context in a way that I don't think RPA does. I hope that makes sense, but if not, please, keep commenting. I'm looking at a question from Jake, clarifying my question. I was talking about Salesforce metadata, object fields, flow, what automation is happening on a record, or how to build some sort of automation. Jake, I hope I answered your question a little bit because you're populating fields on a record in the sentiment and summary, that essentially lets you fire a flow directly. In addition to that, we have enabled invocable. So every prompt you can invoke through invocable. So you can call it from Apex, you can call it from Flow. And we have customers who want to do more sort of intricate things by call this prompt, then call this prompt, then call this prompt, then generate a PDF. So you can do that with, with a combination of flows and invocables and prompts. All right. Okay, those were the questions. So anyway, back to this. So as you can see, I am just deploying a prompt here, and it is just a bunch of clicks for existing prompts. I picked up a prompt, I went next, assigned it to a profile. I could have assigned it to a record. This is really useful if you're a global company and you decide that I'm only going to basically have prompts for my, people in US, right? Because maybe there is compliance in Europe that I have not gotten around to. So I'm doing it here. So that's a good way to look at this. I'm going to go back to prompt catalog cockpit and show you a little bit more of what we do. We also track every one of these calls that is being made. So you can get an ROI dashboard, right? We start to show you how much time you're saving, how much money you're saving by these prompts. Obviously, this is a demo environment, so there's not enough data. But essentially, the idea is by tracking all of this, you're able to highlight value to your end users. You're able to highlight value to your stakeholders, to your management, and they can really get a sense of how much usefulness they're getting out of AI. Another area along the same lines that we are starting to do some work in is the AI Insights dashboard. And the idea here is that we are starting to look at usage of prompts by object. We are starting to look at usage of prompts by profile or by user. And what this lets you do is it lets you see which prompts are working, which are not, right? What kind of users are finding value. And by doing this, you can interview them. You can get into deeper adoption insights, right? You can figure out what kind of things are useful for your end customers. If you're particularly a mid or a large company, if you're an admin or an architect there, it's really hard to do this kind of stuff, right? Like, what kind of questions do you ask and who? Now you know that I have some people who are very sort of power users, and I can ask them those questions. So that's on the AI Insights. We're also, adding some more use cases which are on our website. We have added support for multiple AI models. So you can have more than one AI model. You can connect your Azure, you can connect your Bloomberg GPT or whatever other GPT you want to use. You can have Google Bard or Google Vertex, OpenAI. You can even have your own internally hosted AI. The whole point of all of this is to offer an incredible amount of flexibility to your organization. What I'm hearing from a lot of large companies is like they are contracting directly with these vendors, these AI vendors, and they're making sure that their compliance and security is taken care of there, right? If you have a deep relationship with Google Cloud or AWS or Microsoft Azure, which is typically the three, suspects that a lot of people have relationships with, right? If you have a deep relationship there, you can make sure that the data retention, access, data residency, where is this AI getting called from, all of that is figured out there. And then the only piece left is to make sure that on the Salesforce side, there is enough masking, enough security, enough ability to do administration, enough prompt engineering and support for prompt administration, ability to show ROI. And that is all the things that GPTfy is trying to do. It's trying to reduce all of that grunt work that you may have to do yourself so that you can bring in AI securely and you can bring it very, very quickly and inexpensively. So that is that. We are also adding support for what we call API data sources. So if you want to enrich with third-party data sources, right, you may have a tie-up with DNB or Bloomberg, or you may be a customer of any of them. The whole intention here is how do I bring information from this to enrich my accounts, to enrich my contacts, and then apply AI on it? And you may have those integrations today, but if you don't, then this allows you to bring a lot of that information into your Salesforce instance. Data context mapping is all of the mappings that we were looking at. And this is kind of where we have the support for regex and some of the other things, block lists that I was talking about. So if I go here, you can now see that my masking scope can be on the entire value. And if I have a field that is a long text field, which I don't know if I have one here, you can then see that I have specific patterns, right? I can apply patterns to it. So that is kind of what's happening in this space. Is there is a lot of interest in multi-layered security, and that's what we are trying to add to GPTfy. One of the other things I wanted to show you very quickly is on our security layer. So what you're seeing is, you can have block lists. So maybe you have products that you specifically do not want to mention. This is especially useful for product companies. If you're a product company, you don't want a vulnerability to be communicated to an AI, especially when you've not validated it internally. And if you remember the Samsung GPT fiasco that happened, it was really that based on what I read online, it was really that some Samsung engineers got some error codes and they put it in chat GPT and inadvertently it got leaked out. So if you run a company that is product based, particularly software, hardware, high tech, and you sell to governments, you sell to military, you sell to a lot of customers, and your vulnerabilities can have real world impact, it is really important that you block the name of product in all the data that's going to AI. That's just an example that I heard firsthand from some large barrier tech companies. That's a risk for them. So we have the whole idea of block list where you can keep on creating block lists. So they may be based on inappropriate language, they may be based on product sensitivity, they may be based on account and customer sensitivity. You don't want FBI to be mentioned. Maybe you said it with them, right? So you can put these here and we will scan and make sure all of those things are masked before we send it over to AI. Similarly, we have extremely rich support for regular expressions. These will come out of the box in the release that's coming out in another less than a week now, I think. And you can, block all of these. So if you have Australia tax file number, Canadian, Chinese, Finnish, French, whatever, right? There's a whole lot of those things that we are doing for passports, for tax ID, personal identification, Aadhaar in India. There's a ton of those kind of things. For global companies, this is an extremely important thing, and we want to make sure that they can use AI very, very, easily, and they are they're not feeling worried about what's going to happen to my data. We are also introducing a flow template, so you can leverage that to use invocables from our product, and that way, you can build your own sophisticated flow. So I don't know why it navigated here. But we have a flow template is, I guess, the point I'm going to make here. All right, let me quickly show you, hopefully, right? So here in the templates, we will now have a flow template for GPTfy. And then there's a reference flow, there is response, there's a bunch of flows that we are going to give. So if you are an admin type person, you can absolutely use that. All right, so with that, let me go back, and I saw a question on security audit. All right. So let's talk about security audit for a minute. So what I was showing you earlier, what we were calling response, that's been renamed to security audit. And the idea here is that you can keep, see this auditing of all the information, right? What was sent, what was received, what was masked, it's all here now, right? And that's the beauty of this whole technology here, is that your compliance, your security, your CISOs, they need to feel really, really comfortable pulling the trigger on AI. And right now, that's one of the biggest objection that I've heard from every customer. Everybody wants it, but they're very worried about some of these things. So you have the ability to have a deep audit of this and make a decision if this is for you or not. The other thing that I was talking about earlier is around what we call AI mass processing. And the idea here is that you are able to schedule what prompts to run when, right? So I can schedule a prompt to run, like I was saying, every 30 minutes or whatever, and it will run, and you have a whole track of what was run and all of that information. Great way to automate, particularly if you are running a support type organization where you have a lot of cases, you're running a B2C, opportunities just come flowing in or leads come in and you want something to be done using AI. You want to summarize, enrich, analyze, do sentiment analysis, and you want it to be automated. So there's a lot of support for those kind of things that we have built here. All right. So with that, what did I leave out? Retention. That's another security and compliance requirement that we get. And you can choose how long you want to keep your security audits for, right? You may want to keep them forever, but they consume memory. You may go, well, I only want it for 30 days, and that is enough for my security people to monitor and look at. So we will automatically wipe them out after 30 days. So that is another value that you have for security audits. And again, this is all based on what we have heard from our customers. Everything that you're looking at here is built thanks to customers and people like you who are asking these questions, giving these suggestions and things like that. So I think I went a little bit over, but I'm seeing there's some questions still flowing in. Let me see if I can answer them. Pearl asked about security audit. So hopefully I showed that, Pearl. But if you, okay, got it. Will it be useful with data imports and exports? Arohi, I don't know if your question is in response to what, but if you mean for security audit, then yes. Security audits are just records in an object. And so, yes, absolutely, you can import them out, export them out. If you use some third-party data retention capability and you want to apply retention policies from that, you can absolutely apply them. All right. Then continuing to see these. All right. All right. Okay, I think I may have answered questions. If there is anything that I did not answer, please, go ahead and ask me. And please do connect, with us on LinkedIn. I don't know if I shared my credentials, but I'm sure my colleagues probably did. Please do follow us on GPTfy.ai. We are also on LinkedIn and quite active there. And if you have questions, if you have follow-up things that you'd like to talk with us about, please do go here and let us know. I think I'm done. I'm going to see if there's any other Q&A left. Rahul or anybody else in our team who is monitoring these chats, did I miss anything? Any other questions? There's a bunch of people on the live stream, so I'm curious if there are any questions, please ask. I do have one. If you have any feedback, if you have any comments, if there are other things you would like for us to talk about, we did not cover security, compliance, privacy, ethics. That's one of the key areas that keeps on coming up. Happy to answer questions on that. And any feedback you have to give, please do. Thank you, Arohi. Thank you, Raghu, Pearl, Bree. Oh, lots of people. Thank you, everyone. I think we will call it a close then. This recording will be available, as we mentioned, and all of these resources are available. Please do join us on the Enterprise Dreaming LinkedIn group to keep this conversation going. And you can reach out to me or my colleagues. And would love to hear more as things go along. All right, cool. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. And really appreciate your time today. Thank you.